They say time heals all wounds, but well, some wounds just fade into shadows, whispered secrets that refuse to die. It's been over 50 years since Marilyn Monroe died, yet her death is no less a mystery. I was there that night, just beyond the flicker of her last breath. I saw the fractures beneath the glitter, the silence that screamed louder than any spotlight. Most will tell you she overdosed, that she took too many pills and slipped quietly into the night. But I carry a different truth. One wrapped in bruises, in phone calls that vanished from records, and a darkness that reached all the way to the highest offices in the land. Frank Sinatra whispered this to me once, a warning coated in menace. This is my confession. This is the story no one dared tell. The night air was thick with the scent of eucalyptus and cigarette smoke. Marilyn's home at 12305 Fifth Helena Drive was supposed to be a sanctuary, but it felt more like a cage. I was there, a ghost in the background, her confidant, her shadow. She was pacing, restless, pale under the dim light. Her smile was brittle that night, the kind that cracks under pressure. She fumbled with the telephone receiver as if it was a lifeline tossed into a tempest. The phone rang incessantly. Peter Lawford called, his voice anxious over the crackling line. Milton Rudin tried too, but the connection faltered. Eunice Murray, her loyal housekeeper, had been uneasy for days. Marilyn's door was locked tight, a rarity. Eunice was growing desperate. At one point, Eunice called Dr. Ralph Greenson, Marilyn's psychiatrist, asking for help. He didn't hesitate. Greenson smashed through a window to get inside. What he found wasn't just a woman deceased. There were bruises, faint but telling, marks that spoke of something darker. I remember the bruise on her lower back clearly. The official autopsy called it superficial, but I knew better. That bruise wasn't from a fall. Someone had held her down. Listen closely to Dr. Thomas Noguchi's autopsy report. The man they called the coroner to the stars. He was methodical, almost clinical. There was acute barbiturate poisoning, consistent with a lethal dose of Nembutal and chloral hydrate. Hemorrhaging was observed in the stomach mucosa, with no tablets or foreign bodies present, indicating oral ingestion. Yet the report made no mention of the bruises on her arms or the puncture marks on her thighs. They were there, faint, almost invisible, but they told a different story. Marilyn was scared, not just of dying, of being silenced. One night I got a call from Frank Sinatra himself. His voice was tense, low and urgent. She was killed. Not by herself, not by accident. They did it with a Nembutal suppository. No pills in her stomach. You want to believe it's all clean and simple? It's not. Sinatra named names. Robert Kennedy, jealous, controlling, dangerous, the mob, hungry for leverage, quick to silence a loose end. Marilyn had become a threat. She knew too much. She wanted to talk, and so they made sure she never could. Frank's eyes burned like coal as he leaned in. She was tangled up in the Kennedys' mess. Affairs, secrets, power plays. Bobby couldn't risk a scandal. You remember how close she was to Jack? It wasn't the innocent friendship the world saw. The room was heavy with smoke and secrets. That night I realized Marilyn's death was more than a tragedy. It was a warning to anyone who might speak out. The LAPD reopened the case in 1982 after conspiracy theories flooded the media. They interviewed witnesses, reviewed evidence, and dug through every shred of paperwork. Their conclusion: no evidence of foul play, yet they couldn't explain the unexplained. The unlogged visitors who came and went into the dead of night, the phone calls mysteriously erased from records, or the contradictory witness statements. The official story needed to be neat, A star lost to her demons. The truth, it's darker, messier. Marilyn was fragile, a child wrapped in silk, haunted by shadows. She took pills to silence the pain, to escape the loneliness. But that night something else was at play. The fear in her eyes was real. The bruises, the broken door, the calls no one wanted answered. These weren't accidents. They were the last notes of a requiem she never chose to sing. Eunice Murray's testimony was brushed aside. She told police about the locked door, the frantic knocking, the voices she heard through the walls. She said Marilyn was terrified, but her words were dismissed as the ramblings of a nervous housekeeper. Dr. Greenson's actions were also questioned. Why the broken window? Why the delayed call for an ambulance? There were rumours he tried to cover up evidence to protect secrets buried deeper than anyone wanted to admit. I held back this story for too long. Fear, loyalty, shame, but secrets don't stay buried, not forever. She was pacing, calling, crying. I remember the trembling in her hands as she dialed numbers she really shouldn't have. Her final call was to Peter Lawford. He later told me she sounded disoriented. A woman drowning in shadows, the pills, the empty bottles on her bedside. Toxicology showed a lethal mix of barbiturates and chloral hydrate. But you know, the absence of pills in her stomach? The hemorrhaged lining of her stomach suggested oral ingestion. The official narrative overlooked how long-term barbiturate use alters absorption. There was no note, no clear explanation. Some say she planned a press conference to expose the truth, to name names. Others say she was simply broken. Both could be true. Private detectives left notes, bugged conversations, whispered of tapes that never surfaced. John Minor claimed to have transcripts of Marilyn's voice, confessions, revelations, but no tape ever saw the light of day. Rumours twisted into legends, myths tangled with facts. The bruises, the injections, the broken door, the phone calls erased from logs, the men who came that night and left before dawn, the ties to Kennedy's shadowy world, the whispers from Sinatra. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated erasure. Marilyn wanted to be more than a face, more than a smile. She wanted to be heard. She wanted to be free. I'm telling you this now because silence is complicity, because the ghost of Marilyn Monroe still waits, and because some secrets burn so hot they never die.